Today, I want to share something that may not often be discussed, but affects many men and couples as we age. The reduction in penis size can seem surprising or even taboo for some. However, I firmly believe that discussing such topics is important for understanding that aging is not something to fear, but rather something to embrace with wisdom. Like any other part of the body, the penis also changes with age. This can lead to insecurity, disappointment, or simply confusion. However, my story and my husband's story have taught us that these changes do not have to mark the end of intimacy or pleasure when I was young. Like any other girl with dreams, sex and intimacy were associated with physical energy. I remember when I met the man who became the love of my life, his energy captivated me not only because of his appearance, but also because of the confidence he exuded in the early years of our marriage. Our sex life was intense and exciting, which is normal in youth. However, over the years, as our bodies began to change, so did our way of interacting in bed. The first noticeable change was related to my husband's reduced firmness during arousal. At first, we were both puzzled, thinking it was temporary. But it wasn't time passed, and his reactions no longer functioned as they once had. Sometimes they would appear and disappear before we could enjoy intimacy. That's when I began to notice a reduction in size, which can affect any man or couple unprepared for it. I remember the first time we talked about it. My husband, always a confident man, began to avoid the topic of sex. I noticed how he emotionally withdrew, worried that he could no longer satisfy me as he had before. Before it was clear that he felt shame, something he had never experienced before. It broke my heart. Because I knew that the foundation of our relationship was not sex, but rather the love and connection we had built over the years. I took the time to research this matter because I wanted to know what was going on and how I could make him feel better. I discovered that a decrease in penis size as one ages is a perfectly normal occurrence because the body loses some of its elasticity as hormone levels and blood flow change. However, the most significant thing I discovered was that these changes do not imply the end of intimacy or pleasure. After a quiet dinner one evening, I made the decision to talk to him. I sat next to him, took his hand, and told him that I understood what he was going through and that he shouldn't feel ashamed. I also explained that our bodies change over time and that it's okay because what really mattered to me was not how he looked, but rather the connection we shared. When our relationship changed, we started to focus more on emotional connection than on physical acts, realizing that pleasure doesn't always have to be linked to arousal. We also discovered new ways to touch, communicate, and enjoy each other. We started to appreciate intimate moments in a different way, such as long embraces, lingering kisses, and intimate play that we might have overlooked in our younger years. Over time, my husband started to feel more confident again, though it wasn't a sudden change. One of the most significant lessons we learned from this process was that intimacy is not just about what happens between the sheets, but also about how we relate to each other, how we listen and support one another, and how we are there for each other, not only in good times, but also through the challenges that come with aging. He gradually began to accept his body as it was, but this did not mean that we no longer had a fulfilling sex life. On the contrary, we found that sex could be more enjoyable and meaningful when focused on emotional connection and mutual pleasure rather than on physical satisfaction associated with youth. It's true that men frequently experience pressure from society to maintain a masculine image throughout their lives. This pressure can be particularly intense when physical changes start to occur. But I wish all men understood that their true value is not determined by how big their penis is or how aroused they are. Rather, it is determined by how they love, care for, and emotionally connect with their partners. As we get older, I can say with confidence that having sex can be even more fulfilling than it was when we were younger, because maturity enables us to be more understanding, patient, and sensitive to one another's needs. It helps us to unwind and experience the delight of physical contact without worrying about expectations from others. It also allows us to appreciate moments without feeling obligated to accomplish a certain goal. One of the biggest shifts has been the way we first viewed our bodies. When we were younger, we were frequently preoccupied with appearances, seeking flawless bodies with toned muscles and optimal performance. But as we grew older, we came to value our bodies as vessels for our experiences, love, and memories. In the same way that his scars reveal stories about how his body has changed with age, my spouse shares his story. His body becomes a living map dotted with adventures. Instead of looking at this with dismay or annoyance, we choose to regard it with thankfulness because we have experienced both our successes and our failures. Each line and shift reveals a tale of resiliency, love, and development. My spouse started to embrace another viewpoint on his physique and masculinity. When he let go of society's expectations, I saw that his confidence returned, but this time it came from a deeper place. It was no longer superficial confidence based on appearance or sexual activity, but rather confidence rooted in acceptance of who he truly is with all his transformations. His penis size was no longer a symbol of his masculinity. It was just a part of his body that had changed over time, like many other things. Our sexual encounters became less frequent, but they became deeper and more meaningful every time we touched, as if to celebrate that we still found ways to connect and love each other despite the years and changes. We started looking into new ways to share pleasure without feeling pressured to achieve arousal or an orgasm, and we found that true pleasure is in the act of being fully present with each other without any expectations, just enjoying the moment. One thing I really value about these years is that we are able to be vulnerable with each other, freely discussing our fears and insecurities. In a society where size and functionality are frequently used to define masculinity, my husband talked about how hard it has been for him to accept changes in his body and how it has made him feel less manly. However, he also shared how our relationship has taught him that his value is not based on these flimsy criteria. I was honest with him, saying that while physical changes were initially unexpected, they never affected my love or desire for him. On the contrary, our bond strengthened as we navigated these changes together. We learned to communicate better, expressing what we needed from each other, not only in bed, but also in everyday life. This communication became key in maintaining the spark in our relationship, not just physically, but emotionally too. Over time, our focus shifted increasingly towards emotional intimacy. We became more aware of caring for each other's emotions, our souls as much as our bodies. We realized that sex is not just a physical act, but an extension of the emotional and spiritual connection we share when this connection is strong. The pleasure we experience becomes much deeper and more satisfying than any physical activity could offer for my husband. Accepting his body opened doors to new forms of self-care. He began taking better care of his overall health, not just sexually by adopting a balanced diet. Staying active, practicing relaxation techniques helped reduce stress and anxiety. His emotional and physical health both improved as a result of these adjustments, which unexpectedly boosted his sexual life in unexpected ways. One important thing I want to stress is that these changes didn't happen overnight. Rather, they were a gradual process full of ups and downs, doubts, and small victories. Stress and anxiety are frequently major factors in age-related sexual issues, and letting go of performance pressure led to a greater sense of freedom, which allowed his body to respond more naturally during our intimacy. As we grew older, our sexual relationships evolved. It's no longer just physical sex, but a deeper connection involving touch, tender words, and gestures of love. We realized that true pleasure isn't just about the act itself, but rather about presence and love shared between us. My husband still experienced moments of frustration about his body, but these became less frequent as we continued working on our relationship and embracing ourselves together. We also learned how to laugh at situations, because humor is a great ally in reducing tension in bed, because life is full of flaws, and that's what makes it beautiful. Every change in his body became a chance for growth and exploration, strengthening our relationship and teaching us new ways to express love. As I reflect on the past, I am thankful for everything we have experienced, and I believe that youth, passion, and intensity have their place. This goes beyond society's standards of beauty and performance and values what really matters: connection, intimacy, and mutual respect. Beauty. For any man or couple going through these changes, my message is simple. Don't be afraid to talk about it or to accept what your bodies are going through. Remember, aging is a natural part of life, and with the right mindset, every stage can be just as enjoyable and meaningful as those before. Penis size and firm erections are just physical aspects of something much larger whole. True masculinity, true connection, and true pleasure lie in the ability to love and be loved. This, dear friends, has nothing to do with size, appearance, or any part of the body. It's all about the heart and soul. As we age, we continue to learn how love connects, and for me, that's the real gift of aging.